Welcome back to the channel, my fellow 40k theorists. We've got a special spicy detachment to go over today with the Champions of Faith. I like it. I like it a lot. So, if you like this video, thunderhammer that like, subscribe, and bell icon, leave a comment, check out our other videos, check out the second channel, all that stuff that I say every video. Alright, so this is our new detachment. It is the Champions of Faith. Our detachment rule is Righteous Purpose. In your command phase, you can discard up to 3 miracle dice. For each discarded, you can select one Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army. Until the start of your next command phase, that unit is righteous. While a unit is righteous, you add 1 to the move characteristic of models in that unit, add 1 to its leadership, and you improve the weapon skill and ballistic skill characteristic of weapons equipped by Battle Sisters, Celestians, and Paragon Warsuits. So, you can make any units righteous. You can do up to 3 different units that are righteous by discarding 3 miracle dice. So it's a 1-to-1 relationship there. And then all of your Battle Sisters, Sacrosants, and Paragon Warsuits all get a bunch of cool stuff. They get +1 to their weapon skill and ballistic skill. So that's pretty good. Let's just continue here, because I have some thoughts on that. While a Sacrosant unit, Celestian Sacrosant unit from your army is not battle shocked, add 1 to the objective control characteristic of models in that unit. So they're OC2. That's never a bad thing to have. So overall, very interesting detachment ability. +1 move, +1 leadership, +1 weapon skill, and ballistic skill. So it's both of them. Not super great. The +1 ballistic skill and weapon skill, not amazing on the Paragon Warsuits. They get +1 to hit against monsters and vehicles, so it is useful if they're attacking something that isn't that. But they already are +1 to hit against certain targets, so not as useful on them. Very strong on Celestian Sacrosants, because now they're hitting on 2s, they're moving 7 inches, their leadership's 6, they're -1 to be hit, maybe it's -1 to be wounded. I think if they're -1 to be wounded, if there's a character attached to them. So they can become pretty interesting now, and you saw the thumbnail, they're not actually cracked, but they're very, very good now. So, enhancements. Triptyarch of Judgment. I don't know if I said that right. Who cares? 15 points. Adeptus Sororitas model only. Each time a model in the bearer's unit makes an attack, you can ignore any or all modifiers to the attack's ballistic skill, weapon skill, characteristics, or any modifiers to the hit roll. So it's not full ignore all things. It's just to your hit roll, essentially, and your ballistic skill. Still good to have. Only 15 points. I like these less and less nowadays, because there are so many things that give you like rerolls to hit, +1 to hit, so I don't love it, but I also don't hate it. It has its place for sure. Mark of Devotion is the next one. This is 30 points, Sororitas model only. Add 1 to the attack's characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons. While the bearer's unit is righteous, add 2 to the attack's characteristic, and add 1 to the damage characteristic instead. So on a Canoness, or on like a Palatine, this starts becoming pretty interesting. Your Palatine becomes 3 damage with like 6 attacks, so that seems pretty good. And then she can pop a miracle dice to then make every single wound a mortal wound in addition to the damage that she causes. This is also very good on a Jump Pack Canoness. I couldn't think of the name there. Yeah, she's got a 5 attack power sword, strength 5 AP2, 2 damage. Now it is better. Add 2 to the attack's characteristic and 1 to the damage, so that's going to be 7 attacks at AP2, 3 damage. Her Eviscerator, that's strength 6 with only 3 attacks, but it has sustained hits, so that would add attacks to that as well. You've got a couple of different options here. It's 30 points, so it is pretty pricey, but sisters can do some interesting things when they have all kinds of damage going on, so that's pretty good. Eyes of the Oracle is 10 points. Adeptus Sororitas model only. The bearer's weapons have precision. Each time the bearer's unit destroys an enemy character, you gain a CP. So it doesn't have to be the actual sister who has this enhancement destroying the character. It's while her unit destroys a character, you gain 1 CP. It'll proc once in a while. You'll get it a couple of games here and there. Maybe not. Maybe actually. Well, I guess I'll take that back. If you have this with Sacrosant unit, then them going into combat, they're actually probably going to do some damage against a character. If this is put on a Palatine, she can do dev wounds to that character. So now she has precision, so she could get the job done potentially. Just getting a CP, no other restriction, for 10 points, not a bad enhancement. Then we have our Sanctified Amulet for 25 points. Adeptus Sororitas, model only. Enemy units cannot be set up on the battlefield from reserves within 12 inches of the bear. I know I kind of paraphrased that, but that's what it does. So that's really good. If you can have just a character that you can kind of stick in your backfield and not really have to worry about. Their characters are very cheap, so this will put their character, like a 35-point character, you're looking at a 60-point character that keeps your backfield just safe all game, basically. Or you could put this in a unit of some kind, but my initial reaction there is that you just take some cheap-ass character, like a Hospitaller or something, and then just put this on her, put her in the backfield, and be like, you can't deep strike back here. Boom. All these 6-inch deep strike strats that we're getting, none of that works. So, pretty cool so far. We'll move on to the stratagems next. We have our Shield of Denial as the first one. 1 CP, any phase, just after a mortal wound is allocated to any unit in your army. You target that unit that took the mortal wound. Until the end of the phase, models in your unit have a 6-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds. If they're righteous, until the end of the phase, they have a 5-up Feel No Pain instead. Admittedly, this one's not great. Getting a 6-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds, does that really help you very much? Not really. Getting a 5-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds, that is much more helpful, but it's only against mortal wounds. A lot of other factions have ones that give you like a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds and like psychic attacks. This doesn't do that either. It doesn't give you anything against psychic attacks. You have to be righteous. There's a lot of restrictions involved with this one, but you know, it's there if you need it, but it's not very good. Suffer Not the Unfaithful is our next one. This is in your shooting or fight phase. You target an Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army that is righteous. They have to be righteous crusaders, and that has not been selected to shoot or fight this phase. You either gain lethal hits or sustained hits. Until the end of the phase, weapons equipped by models in the unit have the selected ability. So you pick lethal or sustained, your weapons gain those abilities. So now Sacrosancts can have sustained hits and lethal hits, which is pretty good because they're now hitting on 2s. If you put a regular Canoness with them, they're rerolling 1s. Now this also happens in your shooting phase if you need it to. So on units like Paragon Warsuits, they can have sustained hits now, which isn't the best ability ever. Lethal hits might actually be better on them. Well, not with Miracle Dice. I take that back. Not with Miracle Dice, because you can just auto-wound and stuff. But yeah, getting sustained hits on all their grenades, all their melta-guns, that can go a long way. For 1 CP, not terrible, but I think it's probably going to be better in combat with your Sacrosancts, because now they have lethal and sustained, with a little bit of reroll potential. It's nice. It's nice to have. We're going to get some more, though. We can make Sacrosancts just kill things now. 2, the Heart of Heresy is our next one for 1 CP. This is in your fight phase. You target an Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army that has not been selected to fight. Until the end of the turn, improve the strength characteristic of melee weapons by models in your unit by 1. If they're righteous, improve the armor penetration of melee weapons equipped by models in your unit by 1 as well. So, now our Celestian Sacrosancts, that's hard for me to say, they are now Strength 5, AP 2, with lethal hits, hitting on 2s, with sustained hits, with rerolls. Rerolls 1. That's pretty good. That's pretty damn good for a 150-point unit of dudes. Well, dudettes, I guess, right? Do people even say that anymore? Path of the Righteous is next. That's 1 CP. It's in your fight phase again. 1 Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army that's not been selected to fight. Until the end of the phase, each time a model in your unit makes a pylon or consolidation move, it can move up to 6 inches instead of 3. That's pretty good. When doing so, if it's righteous, it does not need to end that move closer to the closest enemy model, provided it ends that move as close as possible to the closest enemy unit. So this not only is a strat that gives you an extra 3 inches for your pylon and your consolidations, it lets you change how you're able to move the unit. And this is very important because when you're in combat with something and your guys have to move towards that closest model, it really restricts where they're actually able to move to. Like, you can kind of finesse it a little bit, like you can move around, you can move different places, but you have to end closer. With this, you can ignore that model and you can just go around as long as you end closer to the entire unit. There's a lot of other scenarios that make this good, but that's really like what happens at the end of the day, is that the guys that aren't in combat, they don't have to pile into that one model and try to like surround that one model. They can just surround the unit. And you can technically go backward with this. If you destroy an enemy unit and the closest enemy unit is somewhere else, you can actually end up going backward instead of forward. So it depends on what you're attacking, and it depends how the table is set up and how the enemy units are positioned. but this could be very, very, very good. I'll have to make like a video on this stratagem and explain why it's so good, because it's really, really strong. We haven't really seen something like this in 10th edition. So that's the first of its kind. Saw it here first, folks. Bastion of Faith is the next one, 1 CP. Fight phase just after an enemy unit selects its target. You target a Celestian Sacrosanct unit that was the target of the attacks until the end of the phase. Each time an attack targets a unit, subtract 1 from the hit roll. In addition, if they're righteous, you can select one other Sacrosanct unit from your army that is not battle shocked and within 6 inches of your unit until the end of the phase. Each time an attack targets those units, you subtract 1 from the hit roll. These units are -1 to be wounded if they have a character attached. Anybody who's had to deal with a unit that's -1 to be hit and -1 to be wounded with a 4-up invuln knows these units are not easy to deal with. They just don't die sometimes. The double minuses, it goes a really long way, and then when you're bouncing off of a 4-up invuln, sometimes you just don't do anything, or you get like 1 model after all your attacks are said and done. So that's very, very nice to have when it combines with the -1 to be wounded. And then you can do it on 2 different units if they're righteous, if the 1 unit is righteous. Hell yes. Indefatigable dedication? What? We're just going to go with that. This is 1 CP. This is our last stratagem here. This is in your movement phase. Just after an Adeptus Sororitas unit from your army falls back, target that unit. Till the end of the turn, it's eligible to shoot in a turn in which it fell back. If your unit is righteous, until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare charge in a turn in which it fell back. Awesome. Especially on things like the Paragon Warsuits. So they're in combat with something, they want to fall back and do stuff, so they fall back, they shoot their melta guns at some tank commander and blow him up, and then they charge into a Rogaldorn or something and take him out. Not actually, but they can charge into a different unit and be pretty cool. You can also use Heart of Heresy on the Paragon Warsuits as well. That'll make them Strength 9 if you're taking the swords, Strength 9 AP 3 potentially, 2 damage. So that's pretty good, because they're going to be +1 to hit, because their weapon skill becomes 2+. And if they're not attacking a monster or a vehicle, they're just hitting on 2s with all those attacks. So really good. Really, really good. Now, whoops, that's the wrong one. So that's our Champions of Faith. I think it is pretty good. Pretty good. I don't know if it's better than some of the other ones like Bringers of Flame, but it's definitely like a close second, because it's got a lot of interesting things that you can do here. Now, I guess the elephant in the room is that Sisters took it in the ass in the balanced data slate and the field manual. Their points went up, their miracle dice got shafted completely, so it remains to be seen if there's still a faction that can really compete in the current meta. I'm not the one to tell you at the moment, just because I haven't played them very much lately. So I've played them a little bit before, but not lately, not in the last 4 months. So I couldn't really tell you. All I knew was that all the points of everything that I was using went up, and I was like, okay, I'm switching armies now. I'm switching back to Votan. So that's basically what happened there. So yeah, there's going to be a little bit to be desired, just because Sisters units are very expensive, and they're not very hard. The Sisters are basically like Eldar for Imperium. Their stuff can do a lot of very surgical strikes, but they're just not very tanky. So you've got to play with them really well. But I think this detachment's very good, all things considered. Just objectively speaking, I think that it's a good detachment and has some pretty good things you can do. I do think Bringers of Flame is probably better, but your armies are looking a little bit different there. This is Sacrosanct.army, because your Sacrosanct becomes so much better in this detachment. So you'll probably see this at your local stores, and you'll see people trying to run this with a bunch of Sacrosancts. I got a bunch of them on the... You can't probably see them over here, but they're over here. I got a unit of those guys, so only one. So this isn't my detachment. I wouldn't really be able to run this because I don't have a million Sacrosancts, but I think that Sacrosancts just became very good, and you're going to see them kicking some ass for sure. That's like 30 attacks. You can have them at Strength 5, AP 2, 2 damage with lethals and sustained. Yeah, that tends to fuck shit up. So that's going to do it for this episode, guys. Thanks for watching. Thunderhammer that like, subscribe, and bell icon. Leave a comment, check out the other videos, and check out the other channel. And that's it. So, I will see you guys next time. Theory hard, and I'll catch you back at the lab.